Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Meshwaraha, Guru Reva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam Trailokyam Sacharacharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vedya Dravidam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Om Bhadram Karne Vishvinuyama Devaha Bhadram Pashe Makshabhirya Jatraha Stirai Rangaishtushtuvagum Sastanubihi Vyashema Devahitam Yadayuhu Swasti na Indro Vridhashravaha Swasti na Usha Vishwavedaha Swasti nastarksho arishtanemihi Swasti no Brahaspatir Dadadu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So we are in the fifth prashna, the fifth question. Is Amini online?
No, she's not.
Puneet, may we ask you to do mantras this morning? So, which mantra are we on?
Number 6.
Number 6 in the 5th chapter. And we've been doing the exegesis on Om. And remember, we talk about Om having Chatushpada, 4 quarters, even though in this text only the first 3 are largely talked about. So first one, A. Second one, U. Third one, Ma. What's the 4th one? X. What is it?
Silence?
Yes. So the stands for the waking state, U for the dream state, Ma for the deep sleep state. The 4th, the Turiya, is not another mind state. 4th in our series of discussion. It is the consciousness that illumines all mind states. All right, will you help us out, please?
Sure. Tistro matra mrityumatyaha pratyuktya anyonya sakta anaviprayuktaha kriyasu bhramya bhyantara madhyamasu samyak pratyuktasu na kampategnyah. The 3 matras, when employed separately, are mortal, finite, but when they are strung together, they are not in any sense of the term quote, wrongly employed. When they are quote, properly employed in all their external waking, internal deep sleep, and midway dream functions, the knower thereafter trembles not, that is, remains undisturbed.
So the import of the mantra here is, remember, we're talking about Parama Brahman the supreme consciousness, and apara Brahman, the lower Brahman. Or I prefer the terms nirguna Brahman, Brahman without qualities, and saguna Brahman, Brahman with qualities. What is the nirguna Brahman? I, always directly known, myself. And what is the saguna Brahman? This entire phenomenal world, which has a gross element, meaning all the objects on an individual basis, my physical body. It has a subtle element. We call it the total mind, Hiranya Garbha. My subtle body, my world of thoughts and feelings, perceptions in the dream. Causal body, that's my particular bundle of vasanas, which is the mind folded up into its seed form in deep sleep. And the macrocosm has its total vasana. In this scripture, Prajapati, the creator, remember in the very first chapter, out of Brahman, the first idea, as it were, is Prajapati, the creator God. Remember, which then divides into prana and rain, etc. So this is the macrocosmic version of waking, dreaming, and sleep. So here, what the Upanishad is wanting us to understand is all this is verily Brahman. It comes about sankalpena, by means of imagination. The world is not created, it's imagined. So here the Upanishad is saying the person who understands, not just in each particular part, which we went through in the first mantras, but the whole idea, as Mandukya says, all this is verily Om. That which is beyond all this is also Om. We have Saguna Brahman, this world of objects, emotions, and thoughts. My body, mind, intellect. And the perceiver, feeler, thinker entity, the karta, caught in the web of thought. All that is all Saguna Brahman. Apara Brahman. Lower Brahman. Do not forget Parama Brahman. The Nirguna Brahman. Consciousness. The Turiya. Which is also the fundamental ground of being, the whole universe. Now, we talked a bit about last week how we have various idols, both in the East and the West. past, meaning our idea of God. It can be a Murti, like the statue of Lord Shiva, Krishna, Ganapati, Jesus, even the Guru. But essentially, what we worship is the idea I superimpose on that icon, that idol. So it's important to understand what is it that I'm superimposing on even the pranava, the mantra, Om. Is it still about getting what I want? Or am I beginning to see the self in through? Sarvamaya, Sarvamaya, it's all Maya, it's all bliss. This is the deeper import of this. See this phenomenal world with all its permutations, but the play of consciousness. Any thoughts on this? Next verse. Next one.
ऋगेर्भरेतं यजुर्भिरन्तिरक्षम् सामभिर्यक्तत्वयो वेदन्यन्ते तमोङ्कारेणैवायतनो नावेति विद्वान् यत्तच्छान्तमजरं मृतम् अभयं परं चेति. Through the Rig mantra, Devata through the Rig mantra Devata, one reaches this world. Led by Yajur mantra Devata, he reaches the world of the mains, and guided by the Sama verses, he reaches Brahmaloka. This is known by wise ones very well. By taking support of the syllable Om, the wise one also reaches that which is quiet, undecaying, deathless, fearless, and supreme.
So here is a poetic acknowledgement of the power of the Karmakanda portion of the Vedas here, the Rig Veda, Samaveda, Yajurveda. He does not reference the Atharva Veda in this particular mantra. So what's the import? Through our study of the Upasana, the worship portion of the Vedas, what we attain is this world and the subtle worlds. So he says, if you are focused on the matra you essentially are getting what's in the Rig Veda, and you will become a master of Vishwa, the waking state world. You will learn all the various knowledges you need to know to how to live in this world. These other mantras are also in all three of the Vedas. You know, and it's not really as exclusive as it's put forward in this mantra. So in the Samaveda, he says you'll reach the world of the main sphere, the ancestors of what it means. Meaning we understand in the subtle world the causes of all our internal psychological issues. To move this forward to the 21st century, so many people now are doing inner child work with a psychotherapist, exploring their family of origin. What's the thing? Einstein said it's all relative. Freud says it's all relatives. In the recovery community, if you are the child of an alcoholic, you have a 50% chance of becoming one or marrying one. Why in God's name would someone want to marry an alcoholic? It's familiar, these unconscious tendencies. Yoga would say we have not only this life, but we have prior lives. So these are, for example, the studies of those who get into astrology, past life regression. We're studying the world of the mains, the world of the ancestors. In the Hebrew scriptures, it says, the sins of the fathers are visited upon the sons, even to the second and third generation. That doesn't mean there's a God up there punishing us. But let's use a real live example. Who here has been working on an issue where you have some way of acting in the world, which you developed as a survival skill as a child, which was useful as a child perhaps, but as an adult you find that it's not useful? Who's done work like this? What, do you feel confident enough to share a little bit about it? Yes, no, anybody?
What do you think?
Pick an issue.
Oh, I can share.
Sure.
I'm a chronic people pleaser. I picked up as a child and detrimental as an adult.
Okay, so are either of your parents people pleasers?
Yes.
Which one?
My mom,
Okay, where do you think she got it?
probably from her womb.
And where did her mother get it?
I
Of course you do. From your great, 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 great grandmother. It all came down and on and on. In other words, these things get passed on. Now, it's not just the negative stuff. So I think it was, who are you? Puni, said that you got the message, you're the best. Mike, is that right, how it was said to you?
Yeah.
From where did you get that?
My mom. Yeah.
Where do you think she got that? Do you think she had the idea she was the best? Maybe somebody in her family was? So these are what I call family jewels. These are the positive things that are passed on from generation to generation. It's not always the dysfunctional stuff. Who here had the message in your family, you have a responsibility for excellence? You know, we are the kind of people who achieve in life. You know? We're all ne'er-do-wells, I get it. But many, especially immigrant families, get that one. Your job is to be the best. But the point here, this is the world of the mains. This is the world where we deal with the various dimensions of the subtle body. And then the last idea here, it was Yajurveda is Ma, where we deal with Brahmalok. So according to Hindu theology, if you live a good life and you do ritual, at the end of this life, you go to Swarga, heaven, Brahmalok, where at the end of the age, you're liberated. That's simply what it says. You can accept or not accept that as an article of faith. That's all we know. But the import of the mantra is always in the Upanishads. Jivan Mukta, being liberated, right here. That's to understand the nirguna, understand the higher meaning. I am not the body, not the subtle body. I'm not the vasanas, the unconsciousness of deep sleep. Go on. Who am I? Consciousness. Any thoughts on this? That's a funny sound. It sounds like someone's snoring. Is that from outside?
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Yes.
Oh, it's funny. Next verse.
Iti paschama prashnaha. So here ends the fifth question.
Okay, so now we make our way into the last question.
Query 6, Sukesha and Pipalana. Atha Ainam Sukesha Bharadvaja Prapacha Bhagavan Hiranyanaabha Kausalyo Rajaputro Mamupetyaitam Prashnam Prichata Shodashakalam Bharadvaja Purusham Vetha Tamaham Kumaram Dhruvam Naham Imam Veda Yadhya Hamim Mam Vedisham Katham Te Navaksham Iti Samulo Va Esha Puri Shushyati Yo Nitram Abhivadati Tasmana Hamya Nritam Vaktum Satushrim Ratham Aruhya Pravat Raja Tamtva Prichami Kwasau Purusha Iti. Then Sukesha, son of Bharadvaja, questioned him, O Bhagwan, the prince of Kausala, Hiranyagarbha, once came to me and asked this
I
question.
don't think it's Hiranyagarbha.
Sorry, Hiranyanava, my bad.
Hiranyanava, yes, that's the name of the prince.
Hiranyanava once came to me and asked this question. O Sukesha, do you know the Purusha of 16 parts? I said to the youth, I do not know this. If I had known this, why should I not tell you? He who tells that which is not true gets dried up verily, root, stem, and branch. Therefore I dare not utter falsehood. Having ascended his chariot, he went away in silence. That I ask you, where is that Purusha located?
Okay. So again, we have to understand what the context here. So this youngster, who's a Brahmin, who's well versed in the scriptures, who's approached by this Raja, Hiranyagarbha,
No.
Hiranyagarbha. and asked this question, and he didn't know the answer. So, what we want to understand here is lots of layers of teaching. Ignorance, not knowing, is not a fault. But some of us have yet to understand the incredible importance of Satyam. Who can tell me what Satyam is?
Truthfulness.
Truthfulness. But it also means integrity. It means showing up as a person of your word. There's lots and lots of implication about this. Now, there are layers of truthfulness, of honesty. There's what I call cash register honesty. Don't steal. But I don't think anybody here has that as a particular issue. Anyone? That's good. But do you fib to family or your partner in order to save face, to not look bad, etc.? Many of us do that. Do you still say to someone, oh, I'll call you this week, when you have absolutely no intention of ever speaking to this person? Well, it doesn't mean we engage in compulsive disclosure. But it's very important to align our word and our action in this work. This is what disempowers us if we don't do that. What does that mean? It means we become wimpy, impotent people in the work. In order, this idea of satya has to do with the whole idea of intention or sankalpa. How to accomplish that which needs to be done in this world. It's about integrity. It's about aligning our intention, our speech, and our actions. Develop the habit of showing up as a man or woman of your word. Say you're going to be someplace at 4:00, you better damn well be there. Because if you say, okay, I'll meet you at 4, and you show up at 4:15, you're an effing liar. Do you see that? Well, life happens. Yeah. And your point is? Yeah. We all make mistakes. But what's important as yogis, that we begin to practice this satya, this truthfulness. And then at the very deepest level, am I lying to myself? Here are some of the ways in which we do that. We hide a malicious action or thought or intention behind goodness. I'm just pointing out another person's character flaws to help them, when what I really want to do is punish them. I'm not responding to a call or a text because I'm busy, when really I'm pissed at them. Are you understanding what I'm getting at?
Mhm.
So what a yogi needs to do is develop this intention to aspire to a life of rigorous honesty with myself. So I know what's going on. And here, it's especially important that you don't fib yourself or other people about your own spiritual life. What can happen is the path itself becomes a possession. I want people to know how like I want people to know how spiritual I am. And if I can do cogent God talk, that must prove I know something. Luckily, the Lord usually gives us a B slap at that point, where we find ourselves reacting in the middle of some unavoidable circumstance. Yeah, you're really a basket case still, you know. So the important thing is don't try to be a spiritual person. Know you are Brahman. Give up identification with this body, mind, and its foibles. It's going to happen. So, Satya, this young man did not know the answer to the question. Now, the Supreme Purusha, we've talked about this, one of the oldest words for the infinite. Purusha literally just means person. But what is the Purushottama, as Krishna calls it? The supreme essence, the ultimate essence of what makes you. Here means another name. It can also, depending on the context, be the ego sense. So we have to suss out how it's being used. These very early texts, the words, the technical terms are not nearly as precise. So, king comes, wants to know what is this Purusha with its 16 parts. The young man says, I do not know. The king goes away disappointed, hurt the kid's feelings. But now he's come to Pipalada for the answer. Let's see what happens.
तस्मै स होवाच इहैवान्त शरीरे सौम्य स पुरुषो यस्मिन्नेता षोडश कलाः प्रभवन्तीति. He replied, O gentle youth, that Purusha in whom these 16 kalas are born is right here within the body.
So the idea is it's not up there in the sky. It's the term I keep hearing the young people using. My higher power is not a sky daddy. He's not an old white man with a long beard. I'm an old white man with a long beard. It's not me. Where is it? Where is it? One way of interpreting this text. Right here, right now, in this very life. Who are you? Now, there's a lot of import about practice in this. There is a way of approaching the Vedanta which is at best intellectually satisfying and does nothing to free us. So if we start talking about the self as if it's something that's hovering above us or other, well, what do you think of the self? Well, what do you think of the self? What's your idea about the self? So we're all talking about something other, a self, Atma, Purusha. So in order for us to use the scriptures as a praman, a means of knowledge, we must start with direct experience. Who sees the coffee mug? Who sees it? That's yourself. Nobody here is absent the direct experience. I'm me. I'm the one who sees the coffee mug. That's yourself. It feels like it's inside somewhere. My problem is not that I lack the experience of the self. My problem is adhyasa. Who remembers what adhyasa is? Superimposition. Superimposition. I superimpose on that experience all sorts of nonsense. I confuse the self with the not-self. So always the scriptures invite us to investigate our direct experience. Now, another way of interpreting this mantra, to think of Purusha as the jiva, the sense of individuality, has to do with all the things that we've discussed about the pranas, the senses, etc. I prefer to focus on the first interpretation. All right, next mantra.
स ईक्षाचक्रे कस्मिन् नहम् उत्क्रान्तो भविष्यामि कस्मिन् अन्वा प्रतिष्ठास्यामिति. He, Purusha, reflected, what is that by whose departure I shall depart, and by whose stay I shall stay?
So here, this Purusha, here the reference here is allegorical, and it means the jiva. So who decides who stays in the body and when it leaves the body? So we need to clearly understand Hinduism's notion of reincarnation. So the physical body is born, it lives out its 70 years, or 80 or 90, maybe you die young, and it dies. The subtle body moves from physical body to physical body, taking up new bodies, impelled by its desires. Its desire to garner experience, its desire to satisfy desires. The physical body is a vehicle for the subtle body to garner experience. But the subtle body is not you are ajati, never born. A classic example is like the space in the jar. Coffee mug is like the physical body. The coffee in it is like the subtle body. If I wanted to, I could get a second mug and pour the coffee from one mug to another. Toss that one away. That's like birth and death. But the space in the mug is like self. Is there space in the mug? Yes, no? Okay, watch the magic trick. See the space in the mug? Did I move space?
No.
Did I have, wait. Do I have to put the space back in the mug? What happened to the space when I moved the mug?
Mug is in space.
Yes. If I break the mug, what happens to the space?
Still there.
If I drink all the coffee, what happens to the space?
Also still there.
Nothing. So in the great text Yoga Vasishta, Vasishta uses the term Chid Akasha to describe the self. Chit means consciousness. Akasha means space, not physical space, but the space of pure awareness. I tune up the line. Introvert the attentive faculty and notice the knower. There's no person there. Just the vast, empty space of pure awareness. It seems like it's in the body or behind somewhere, but actually it's not. Just like when I have a dream, it feels like I'm inside the dream body. I'm not in the dream body. The dream body's me. So let's continue the conversation and see what Pipalada answers and how he's going to refer to Purusha. Is he going to talk about the self? Or is he going to talk about this Chidabhasa, this reflection of consciousness, the ego sense? What is it that comes and goes when we are born and die? Going on.
Sa prana masricata pranat shraddham kham vayuj vayurja yotirapa priti vinindriyam manaha annam annadriyam tapo mantra karma loka lokeshu cha nama cha. He created the prana. From the prana, faith, space, air, fire, water, earth, the senses, the mind, food, strength, thought, mantra, karma, the world, and in the world, the different names also.
So here this Purusha, which is another name for Brahman, out of its potentiality comes all of this world. This becomes very easy to understand again if we go to the dream state. You are the God of your dream. You reenact the cosmos on a microcosmic scale at night. First thing that happens, you fall asleep. I call it mini Maya. The essence of falling asleep is I do not know that what I'm projecting is illusion. Then comes the projecting power of the mind. Got a dream body, a dream ego. It's a locus of perception. I see the dream most of the time. Sometimes I'm kind of above in an omnipresent view. But for most of us, most of the time, I'm in the dream body. It feels like that. See the world of name and form outside, thoughts and feelings inside. It's just like this. And to the dreamer, meaning my dreaming mind, it seems real. I only discern its unreality when I wake up. What about waking up proves the unreality of the dream? Go. Oof. Yeah, it's gone. There I am in my bed. Thank God that was just a dream. It is negated. What the scriptures are saying over and over again. Just like all the people, places, things, and conditions, your body, mind, intellect, your senses, your reactions, and the ego, everything that's in the dream is just a projection of your mind. All this is no different. Now listen carefully. Vedanta is not solipsism. Solipsism is the psychological or philosophical notion that my ego creates everything. Some of the new agey people get into this. Why am I yelling at myself through my balls? Oh, I manifested the stock market going up. Any friends who have that particular philosophy? The idea is the ego is creating all this stuff. We have some limited ability to do some dream shaping. The infinite is doing the shaping. When he gets hit by a bus, believe me, galaxies continue to spin is completely unnecessary. Lord will continue. Prajapati, Raim, Pranacha. Keeps going. What this mantra is saying is the origin of it all is the infinite. And it's never God plus the universe. What appears as the universe is Brahman. It's all okay. Ground of being is never ever touched, altered, endangered. Only the names and forms, which are like holograms, continue to change. Knowing this, the woman of steady wisdom is not upset by it. It's just a light show. All right, next one.
सायथेमा नद्यः स्यन्दमानाः समुद्रायाणः समुद्रं प्राप्यस्तं गच्छन्ति विध्येसि तासां नामरूपे सुमद्र इत्येवं रोचते एवमेवास्य परिद्रष्टु रिमाः षोडश कलाः पुरुष यणाः पुरुषं प्राप्त्यास्तं गच्छन्ति विद्येते चासां नामरूपे पुरुष इत्येवं रोचते स एषो कलो ऋतो भवति तदेष श्लोकः. Just as these rivers, seaward bound, when they reach the sea, disappear and get their names and forms liquidated into the oneness with the sea, and all is called merely the ocean. So also these perceived 16 kalas of the seeker that go towards the Purusha, and having reached the Purusha, disappear when their names and forms get merged, and all is thereafter called as Purusha alone.
So
It goes on. He, such a person, becomes without parts and immortal. On this, there is a following verse.
So I think the list that he had in the last one, are there 16 of them?
Yeah.
Yeah. So go through the list again. In the last verse.
From the prana, faith, space, air, fire, water, earth, the senses, the mind, food, strength, thought, mantra, karma, the world, and in the world, the different names.
Yes. So it's a catch-all phrase. It means the entire phenomenal world. So the import of the mantra we're doing now is what happens. So we have entropy in this world. What's the law of entropy?
Everything is moving towards dissolution.
Yeah, it's all falling apart. Of course, we have an opposite principle, which the physicists don't talk about so much. The origin of everything. So not only is everything moving towards dissolution, but out of that dissolution comes new birth. Real live example. What is your physical body made of? All these heavier elements. It's largely water, which is what? H2O, hydrogen and oxygen. Got carbon in there. What else is in the body?
A bunch of metals in that.
Yeah.
Calcium.
Now, after the Big Bang, it was all not even hydrogen yet. But then it all coalesced into stars. What's the basic elemental makeup of a star?
Hydrogen
Hydrogen. What happens to it?
becomes helium.
And then what happens at the end?
Explodes.
It collapses first.
Under its own weight.
And what happens when it collapses? What happens to those, the helium and the hydrogen?
They become denser and denser.
Yes. In other words, they become the heavier elements. And when the star supernovas, it scatters those elements throughout the cosmos, which eventually make their way to form planets and beings on those planets. Take a look at your body. It is stardust. So we not only have entropy, everything going into dissolution, but origination too. This constant cycle of Rahim, Ra interacting, energy and matter. But what this mantra is saying, body, mind, intellect, everything that you think of as the individual, ultimately came out of consciousness, existed for a while, and goes back into consciousness. Nobody is on a sailboat out by the Farallon Islands and goes, "Oh, I just crossed over a piece of the Sacramento River." It's all just ocean then. So the Nama Rupa, the names and forms, out of consciousness, exist for a time, go back into consciousness. Let me give you individual experience. Close your eyes for a moment and visualize an elephant. Is it an African elephant? Big ears. Maybe it's in a herd of other elephants with a big elephant. Can you see it walking through the savannah? Can your elephant trumpet? Microcosmically. Where was your elephant before you imagined it? Nowhere. Nowhere. And then out of you came the image of the elephant. When you opened your eyes and quit imagining it, where did it go? Back into the avyakta, the unmanifest. This is the destiny of all names and forms, gross and subtle. The universe itself. Is it all gonna end? The big freeze at the end of the Big Bang and the expansion? According to scripture, no. That Hiranyagarbha, the total mind, this play of Raim and Prana, creating, uncreating, recreating, uncreating, goes on. Maya is co-eternal. But the ground of being, the stuff out of which everything is made. Utasta, as Vidyaranya says, as Gita says, still, immovable. Okay, one more.
तान् होवाच एताव देवाहमेत तत्परं ब्रह्मवेद नातः परमस्तीति.
Then you skipped one.
अरा इव रथनाभौ कला यस्मिन् प्रतिष्ठिताः तं वेद्यं पुरुषं वेद यथा मावो मृत्यु परिव्यथा इति. Know that Purusha who ought to be known, in whom the kalas are centered like the spokes in the hub of a wheel, so that death may not harm you.
So, the import of the mantra is, as long as I'm identified with the body. The identification with the body is the bija vasana, the seed attachment to everything. So that's the most difficult to sever, the most important. So the person who knows, I am not the body, I am not the prana, I'm not the mind, I'm not the intellect, I'm not the karta, the doer, this jiva bhavana caught in the subtle intellect. I'm not even the avyaktaha, the unmanifest, deep sleep. Ever the consciousness that witnesses it all. Always unattached. Then the inevitable destruction of form no longer bothers me. But if I think I'm the equipment, then I get frightened. There's a story in Yoga Vasishtha about a person, he's not very bright. So he thinks what he needs to do is protect space. So he builds a house to protect space. And in time, the house falls down. And he begins to weep. He does not weep the loss of the house. He weeps the loss of the space. So then he digs a hole to protect space. And in time, the hole caves in. And he weeps. He doesn't weep the loss of the hole. He weeps the loss of the space. And again, he goes on and on, creating different structures in an effort to protect space. Think he's kind of goofy? Yes, no?
Mhm.
You and I do the same thing. How could he have said that to me? Meaning I think I am attacked or hurt. It's just the body or just the personality. Oh, she makes me so happy. I cannot live without her. None of it ever touches. This is the freedom, the existential freedom that self-realization gives us. I don't become Brahman. I don't merge into Brahman. I don't become a super protected person. What I see is I never was a person in the first place. It's all very long, very vivid. Just like when you wake up, no matter how convoluted the dream was, you know it was just a dream. So also, over and over and over, stop the mind, thin the mind, introvert the attentive faculty. Keep noticing the knower. Prove to yourself that you never change. You're safe. Finally, we also learned that if I let go of the tyranny of craving, my mind's at peace. Okay, we'll quit here. How many more mantras?
There's just two more. Yeah, just two more.
We'll finish those up next week, and then I'll have to put the thinking cap on to find out what we're going to do after this. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Namaha. Hari